Welcome to the Dear Doc podcast, where we will discuss the business of running a dental practice with a panel of experts. Now, your host, Dr. Christopher Hoffpower.
Before we get into the show and introduce today's guest, I would just like to thank United Medical Credit for being sponsors of this podcast and of the business of dentistry. As a matter of fact, they have a special offer for Business of Dentistry members, 0% merchant fees for the rest of the year, and 30% discount for life after that. You can get that special deal by either going to docoffinvestments.com and clicking on the deals section, or by going directly to www.unitedmedicalcredit.com/TBOD. Thanks again, UMC. Hey guys, this is Dr. Christopher Hoffpower coming to you from my studio here in Alvin, Texas. Today I am joined by Dr. Robert and Dr. Koerner. Goodness, Karl, I always murder your name. I was apologizing about that before we went on air. We're going to talk a little bit about how you as a general dentist can increase your production in your practice just by learning a couple of things or by bringing in another dentist who does these things. And those things, of course, are going to be surgical third molar extraction and sedation. Now, you know, Dave, you own a company, VIPS, that people out there, if they're listening to this, they can contact you through Facebook and you can get a specialist trained dentist, not an actual specialist or GP dentist, that do third molar extractions and sedations into their practice. But today we're going to talk about how doctors who don't want to do that can do it themselves and bring these really valuable profit centers into their practices, and they can do it this month, right? You guys have a couple of different courses running, both one in Dallas and one in Chicago. So without further ado, I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves, just real quick bio, 3 or 4 sentences so people know why they should be listening to you. Age before beauty. So we're going to let Karl go first.
Okay, well, hey, thanks a lot, Chris. I'm actually at the dental school right now. I'm teaching today in the oral surgery department at Roseman University here in South Jordan, Utah. You know, I don't teach here full time. I don't practice full time, but, I practice a lot of clinical dentistry in the month. And I had patients yesterday and the day before. I love surgery. That's my focus right now. But, third molars is one of our big things in our organization. As far as me personally, I went to the University of Washington in Seattle. I was there and then went in the U.S. Army, and that's where I got most of my training, a GPR, and then being sent to a base with 2,000 soldiers, all third molar age, like 18 to 22. And I was the guy, the only person there to do anything dental on them. And that's where I really, wet my whistle on oral surgery. And then I had a practice in Utah for a number of years, general practice. But then I finally said, general practice is great, but I got a little burnout on it. Decided to just do surgery, kind of like Dave. And then, so that's all I've done since then. So I live in Utah, travel around the country, teaching some courses, try to help general dentists. That's what it's all about.
And Dave?
Yeah, thanks, Doc and Karl, for being here this morning. I'm a 2-year general GPR trained general dentist. I went to dental school and finished in 1985, University of Illinois in Chicago. Following that, I moved to San Antonio and did a 2-year general practice residency where I learned my sedation skills, and I'd always had a passion for third molars. I started out in 1987, moved to Dallas, and I was an associate full-time for several years in a general dental practice. And then around 1990 is before cell phones and the internet, I started doing some traveling and working in other general dentist offices, doing sedations and third molars for their patients that they normally refer out of the office. But I found as an associate dentist how much patients really wanted to be seen in their home or host dental office. So I transitioned over the next few years in doing more of the traveling thing. And in 1996, I gave up general dentistry altogether, and I've been doing primarily sedation and third molar extractions in I would say over the last 30 years, I've probably been in over 400 general dentist offices. I've seen the issues that they confront when they try to do their own extractions. And when I work with a general dentist, I encourage them to do all the extractions that they want to do, and that we're just simply here to help them with the ones that they would normally refer out. I have known Karl for probably 25 years, and about, I don't know, 7 years ago, we got together and started putting together the CE courses designed specifically for general dentists who have an interest in all types of extractions. And Karl had noticed over the years that dental schools were providing less and less surgery experience for their experience in dental school, and we wanted to give them continuing education, basically designed for those who didn't get the experiences that they were looking for in dental school.
Absolutely. I know that, and this is something that you and I have spoken about before, is the concept of the super GP, and my belief that that is how dentists can throw the yoke off of their necks and get out from under these PPO plans by being extraordinarily skilled and working in a rural environment where those types of skills are truly needed. I know it worked out well for myself, and so I support everything you guys are doing, which is why we have you guys on the show now, right? So let's talk a little bit about these courses. Again, if you want someone else to do this for you, you can contact Dave afterwards, but we're going to talk about how you can save that 45. Is it 45%? Is that the compensation these guys get, Dave?
Well, it's generally 50-50, and you know,
so you can save that 50% and put it in your pocket by doing these procedures yourselves. So, Dave, without further ado, Karl, guys, lead me through this pathway. How does someone get signed up for this course, and what are they going to learn?
Well, Dave, you're teaching it. Why don't you start out?
Well, I would say that the easiest way to do that is to go to the Koerner Center for Surgical Instruction website. Just type into Google or some search engine, Karl Koerner, Koerner, surgical extractions, and the website pops up. And there's basically 5 different continuum that are featured on the website. The first continuum is basically designed for dentists who just want an overall refresher, or basically a refresher course on the full extent of surgical extractions. We have an opportunity for doctors to get one-on-one basically training. We have ability to see live patients with one of the continuum. And the continuum that I teach is specifically designed for doctors who have a passion for wisdom teeth. And it's basically 2 evenings with Zoom didactic training for about 3 hours on 2 evenings. And then we have a in-person Saturday course in Dallas where we work on models. And then following us working on models, I actually provide care for 2 live patients with the attendees present. So that's pretty much the extent of our third molar course. Karl, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. There's also an extension of that course where someone can go into your office and spend a day, just watching you do things, watching the flow with your assistant, how you work with the patient before, during, after, all your instruments, and just be a fly on the wall. That's a good course too, where you can talk to them one-on-one. But
Karl,
yeah,
Karl, that's my jam right there. And that's something I think a lot of people don't realize. Whenever you add advanced procedures into your practice, one of the most difficult things for most dentists is understanding the workflow and training their assistants, their subordinates in their practice on how to prep them properly to efficiently do these things. Root canals can be really, really profitable if you're well set up to do it and if you're efficient. And if you're not, and you're on a PPO plan, they're not very profitable because they take up too much time. So I love the fact that you guys are helping them to train the assistants and make sure their instrument layout and workflow goes right, because that is so important for your success in these things.
You know, when you talk about third molars, or when general dentists hear that third molars, they some of them are a little intimidated by that. I mean, it's kind of a mental thing in dental school, you know, scare this poor student to death, you know, and say you're not smart enough to do this or something like that. You know, they don't have to be that way. I mean, some third molars are hard. Yes, those are the ones you refer, that 10%. But the rest of them, you know, if you know certain principles and methods, you can do those. I did a course for Gordon Christensen, or a video once, and he entitled it Easy Third Molar Extractions. And it was mainly about young people, you know, 16, 17, 18, up to maybe 22 or so. A lot of times the roots aren't fully formed. They can be really easy. It's a matter of patient selection and recognizing that. It's
Karl,
not rocket science.
I appreciate you bringing up that subject, because one of the key features of the course that we provide is case selection. And identifying which cases are the more difficult cases. We look at panoramic x-rays, and we as a group go over what the different attendees see in those x-rays, and then I help guide them to be able to pick the appropriate cases for their skill level. You know, one of the kind of, I guess, features of all these courses are they're designed for general dentists. And for that matter, we have periodontists that also attend some of the classes because they want to increase their third molar extraction skills.
Acumen, right?
Yeah, right. And the main thing is that, you know, having worked in general dentist offices, we actually have seen the stumbling blocks, you know, as opposed to most of the courses that are out there that are taught by oral surgeons. Although they're incredibly skilled at what they do, they've really never, you know, walked in your shoes and seen the things that we've seen. That between Karl and I, we probably have over 75 years of experience working in general dentist offices. Obviously, Karl has more experience. You can tell by the top of his head. He has more experience than I.
I can see you're catching up though, Dave.
Yeah, I definitely am, unfortunately. My children remind me that on a regular basis.
I'm trying to get as smart as you. That's why I shaved my head.
There you go. There you go. But yeah, we actually do. We actually have fun doing it. One of the things that I mention in all the courses I teach is that being a general dentist is the toughest specialty in dentistry, bar none. Our job is the relationship specialist with within our communities, and for us to be able to provide or build that trust, we've got to be able to provide our patients with the kind of care that they expect. They want things to go smoothly. And like I said, they love having it done in their office. They love having their dentist do the procedure. But when that's not available, we can offer them alternatives.
So, you know, you mentioned something there a little while ago, and I think that maybe you didn't make enough of it because it's an important point. So just because Mario Andretti or Dale Earnhardt Jr. can drive on a track, it doesn't mean, and they're very, very good at their job. They're very skilled. It doesn't mean that they can teach you how to drive in downtown New York and not get killed. And so the difference here between a GP practice that is set up to do a variety of different things and an oral surgery practice that is set up to do one and only one thing is enormous. And the workflow that goes along with each one of those things is very different. So I think that's a point that can't be belabored enough, that you guys have done it in general practices and you know the workflow in general practices. Because, you know, this is in the end, this is a business course in my mind. It's a clinical course, but it's a course in how to add a profit center to your practice and to make it profitable. This is not one of those courses that you go back to work on Monday morning and you're rah-rah shiskum by and all your team is waiting for you to drop it by Wednesday. This is one of those courses you need to add to your practice, and you need the guidance on how to add it into a general practice.
Well, one example of that, I think, is if you go in a general dentist's office and they have a surgery coming up, it's like their assistant goes to the drawer and everything is in their own autoclave bag, Rarely you'll have two together in the same one, but such a time waster. If we can help them, number one, to use the right instruments, like the ones in residencies, and everyone has one or two they like more than anything else.
Right.
Their
Your
pet
Bolt or what have you.
Yeah, but there's the basic ones from the residency. You want to have like sharp instruments, sharp scissors, sharp periosteal elevator, and it helps if you have them kind of grouped. Like for a surgical extraction, you want these, and so you have a couple sets of those. For third molars, maybe you want a few more. Some people would have just the same set. Oral surgeons would have the same set every time. But I think there's some things we can talk about in that as we teach a course that will help them be more efficient, way more efficient in that manner of delivery, of having the things ready to go that you need so you don't waste so much time, because time is money, as we all know.
Absolutely.
I'd like to just kind of dovetail off that part of the conversation. One of the things I've noticed over the years, from time to time, I'll get a call from a general dentist that's maybe made it halfway through an extraction, and they'll ask me to come over and help them out. And when I look at
not a good day.
No, well, it isn't a good day, and obviously it's an emotionally challenging experience for everybody. And when I walk into those offices and I see the instruments that they're using, I personally couldn't take out the tooth using the things that they're using. And that's one of the things that we talk about in the course is what's the right handpiece? What's the right burr? What's the right instrument? A lot of times general dentists will go to these instrument sales folks and they'll walk away with 10 or 20 extra instruments. I'll open up one of those drawers and there's 50 instruments all bagged in single bags. And I tell them, hey, look, you can't go out and buy Tiger Woods golf clubs and expect to play
absolutely
like Tiger Woods. So we focus also on the overall concepts of what you're trying to achieve with these instruments. And I basically break it down into, you either got to make the object smaller or the hole bigger. And it's not a matter of force, it's a matter of technique. And we really break it down in very simplistic terms. The other thing that we do, I think, a really good job of is help dentists learn how to avoid complications, recognize what those complications are, and what the best way to handle them is. There's a lot of misinformation out there. We talk about suturing, we talk about dry sockets.
Thank God.
Yeah. So
I don't know if I told you this, Dave. I learned, and Dave, you're for those of you who weren't familiar with my practice, I had a very surgically intense practice. I did almost nothing except for extractions and implants and hybrid dentures and things like that. So I learned a lot of these skills, but unfortunately I didn't learn them before I met Dave, or I did learn them before I met Dave, rather, or I would have learned them from him. I had to get my wife to teach me how to suture correctly, because in dental school we learned on sponges. I remember we spent hours with, a piece of, I'm trying to remember if it was pork or if it was beef, because she said, okay, look, the skin on this is closest to human. And so I would suture it and say, no, you got that too tight. You see, you're strangling your suture. That's going to cut off your blood supply. Oh, okay. Well, cool. This is how you displace the suture. This is how you release your incision so that whenever you close it, it's tension free. If it's not tension free, you're going to rip the skin, and whenever it starts to swell in 2 days, it's going to rip open. You're going to have a complication. Walking through all that stuff with someone who's been there and done that and who has the proper training to show you is so very important. Hi, folks. This is Doc Huffpower, founder of the Business of Dentistry and host of the Dear Doc podcast. Before we go any further, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about one of our fine sponsors, Dentamax. Now, I've been able to land a phenomenal deal for all of our TBOD members and our listeners on the Dentamax Dream Sensor. Before I jump into the offer, if you didn't already know, Dentamax offers high-quality dental sensors. They sent me one of their Dream Sensors to try out in my office, and my staff just raved about it. If you're picky about image quality, Dynamax has you covered. When you get your sensor in, a technician will help you by setting it up so that you get clear, concise images all of the time. In fact, they can even set it to mimic a sensor that you had before that you like the image on. All you have to do is share which one it was. It has a tough, durable housing, and it's backed by a 3-year manufacturer warranty, which is one of the longest warranties in the industry. I also like the thin design. With the beveled corners, it makes it easy to place in the patient's mouth, and it's pretty comfortable. Now, I know a lot of you may be worried, will this work with my imaging software? You don't have to worry there. Dynamax has you covered there as well. Dynamax Dream Sensor works with virtually all software. In fact, it's usually plug and play, and you never even have to use a Twain driver. I'm excited to share this special with you because David Ornett, Dynamax's CEO, was willing to give us a really great deal. All of our members can try the Dynamax Dream Sensor for free. That's right. They'll ship it out to you and let you use it for 2 weeks. In fact, they'll even have their technician dial it in on your systems to make sure it looks as good as possible. Now, all you have to do to get this offer is go to dynamax.com/TBOD. But guys, that's not it. Dynamax is going to give you $3,000 off of their retail price, plus a $200 discount above and beyond that, just for being a member of this community. So you can get a size 1 sensor for just $27.99 and a size 2 sensor for $37.99. It's a really great deal on a really great sensor, but you don't have much time to wait because this deal ends on July 4th. So go ahead and go to dynamax.com/TBOD, check out the deal, and celebrate your freedom from high prices. Thanks again, folks. This is Doc Huffpower. Let's get back to the show.
It really is. It really is. And I'm really excited to know that you're going to be, Doc, you're going to be attending the next course.
I will be.
And I'm sure that we'll have an interesting dialogue.
I'm sleeping on Dave's couch.
Well, you can't sleep on my couch. That's where I normally sleep. But anyway, go ahead, Karl.
The good thing about Dave and myself is, Dave and I are alike in so many ways, but we're different in some ways. And you get us together in a room talking about something, and it almost becomes a banter of, well, I do it this way, but he does it that way. We're getting the same result, the same outcome.
Right.
We're treating the patient very, very well. But, sometimes there are variations, and you got to respect some of those variations. Like, for example, I place minimal sutures. Dave places hardly any at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the audience likes to see us when we're together, have that little interaction.
I think it's funny. If I remember right, Dave, didn't we have a conversation about my my needle driver, and you don't like the one I like? I use the Olsen Hagar because it's got the scissors built in, and it's more efficient. And I think I remember you yelling at me about that at one point.
Well, the thing about the main thing I tell people about sutures for extractions, and we're not talking about bone grafts and membranes and stuff like that. We're just talking about extractions.
Possible.
You spend 5 minutes putting in a suture and feeling like it's so important to get primary closure. And then a day later, when your patient calls up and says the suture comes loose, what do you tell them?
Right. I think a lot of people don't realize the power, especially in implants, folks. If you learn anything from this, other than you need to go to one of these courses, if you're closing for an implant, you really want secondary intention healing because you're going to get a much better quality of skin there. You're growing good tissue. You really don't want primary closure. In fact, there's not a whole lot of situations I can think of offhand surgically where primary closure is beneficial compared to a secondary intention healing.
Well, and let me just say one thing about that too, and that is primary closure in most cases is an illusion. It looks primarily closed when the patient's mouth is open and they're not moving around, they're not eating. The real key to a good postoperative result that is missed by most dentists is the quality of the post-op instructions that are given to the patients. And the number one thing that dentists don't, or they miss, is how long it takes for the wound to close. And if food is stuck in those wounds,
Absolutely.
that is the number one thing that causes the problems. And we don't want to tell our patients that it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks before the wound heals enough to begin using it normally, because the patients don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that they have to be on the type of diet that's the ideal diet. But one of the analogies that I use for them, imagine you had a knee surgery and 2 days later you took the cast off and you crammed noodles into that open wound. They look at me like,
why would I do that?
That's
exactly.
dumb, but that's what we're actually telling our patients. So what I focus on also with these attendees is thinking in terms of, we can teach you how to do the surgery beautifully, and that'll get you about 50% of the way there. The other 50% is making sure your patients have good quality post-op instructions, because when you do a good surgery, but they don't know how to take care of the wound and they have problems, they're going to blame you. And then that's going to make it difficult to do your most important job as a general dentist, and that is build trust in the minds of your patients.
Absolutely. I don't know about you. And again, this is one of those different strokes, different folks kind of things. I'm not a huge fan of Pyridex. I am a huge fan of salt water, warm salt water. I'll tell them get 16 ounces of water, use exactly 1 teaspoon of salt, because if you don't tell them that, they think more is better, and they will load that freaking glass with salt and burn the tissue. But I tell them 1 teaspoon of salt in a glass of water as warm as you can stand it. Hold it in your mouth for 30 seconds and let it fall out. Do not swish. And then I give them one of those nice little curved syringes, and I say, gently rinse it after the 4th day. What are your post-op or some of the examples of post-op?
The most important thing that a patient needs to know following the surgery is keep the wound clean. You have to eat, but you don't have to enjoy it. Okay. It's just like, well, it's like tell your patients the truth. Okay.
Yes.
When you have a knee surgery, they put a cast on it. What does the cast do? It prevents you from moving it around. It prevents foreign objects from getting in there, and it prescribes an amount of time that is necessary to achieve the initial healing. And those things are critically important in your mouth, your elbow, or your knee. So you have to eat, and I recommend for patients, the thing that I recommend for patients is a diet that is easily dissolvable. That is, if the food that you eat gets stuck in the hole, if it can't dissolve on its own, that's when the irrigation comes in. That's when the liquid comes in to irrigate with. But the primary thing is what they eat, and the secondary thing is how long they keep that wound clean. That's where you get your critical success.
Absolutely. All right, guys. So you guys are both members of the business of dentistry. And if someone has a question when they see this, I'm going to tell them, guys, just go ahead and make a comment down below. If you have any questions, both Karl and Dave, they're wealths of knowledge. And I have gotten so much from talking to both of them, just because of the fact that they bring a different perspective because they had different training. So if you have any questions, they're always willing to answer things. Put them down below, and sign up for this course. Do yourself a favor, help yourself to become a more skilled surgeon, more confident doctor, and you're going to be helping your patients. So last thing is where I bend your arm here, Dave. So you guys are both members of TBOD. Is there anything that they can do to tell you that they heard about you on TBOD and maybe get some sort of discount or something on this course? How would they go about that?
Yeah, we do. We value, this organization that you've got, and this Facebook group, and we do want to give them a special deal. What we're offering is 10% off. And there's a code for that we'll put on there as we comment or as we post.
Fantastic.
What you've been saying, Chris, is backed up in the literature too. And we try to make sure things we talk about are from peer-reviewed literature. It's not something off the top of my head or Dave's head. It's something
Absolutely.
that, and I subscribe to the Journal of Oral and Maxillofacial Surgery, and every month there's something that ends up finding its way into a course.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. Well, guys, thank you for giving me this time to talk about this course, and for helping us to help some dentists out there. Course cost. How much does the course cost without the 10%?
Well, Dave's course is about $2,500.
Okay, fantastic. So you're going to make that up on how many fourth molar? Let's say you're rolling out 4 Wizzies.
Maybe
how many cases? One case.
Maybe one. Yeah,
People,
maybe two.
ROI. That's a return on investment.
Yeah,
immediate.
So it depends on how much you're charging, but for sure 2. And in the course we work on, we do 6 impactions on models that are extremely lifelike. And as Dave said, you watch him do some cases as well. So, and then the other courses are for surgical extractions, but right today we're talking mainly about Dave.
Excellent. Okay, so whenever we're talking about this continuum you guys have, do you have a sedation continuum as well? And if not, where should they go to learn that?
Do you want to talk about that, Dave, in our partnership with?
I'd like you to talk about that, and then I'd like to just dovetail off of what you have to say about it.
Okay.
Fantastic.
So, Michael Silverman runs docs on oral sedation, and in a conversation I had with him, we discovered that, we're teaching the surgery, he's teaching the sedation. Those two don't really compete at all. Why don't we partner up a little bit? And so we do that. So you can get discounts from our course from him and vice versa. So that's what we do. We defer to those experts, although Dave is an expert on that, but we don't have the courses on that. They do, and we work with them and partner with them and offer special deals to people.
Yeah, and that's a great point, the sedation aspect of this. When you are in the process of learning and developing your skills, it's critically important to be able to sedate on some level your patients, so that when you are sort of stretching that rubber band of knowledge, if you happen to run into some problems, and instead of the surgery taking 30 minutes, it might take an hour, with the sedated patient, there's that emotional buffer, both for the doctor and the patient. So it's certainly well within the skill of any general dentist to do a minimal sedation with an oral drug supplemented by nitrous. And I really encourage people to go beyond that for the doctors that really have a love for surgery. IV moderate sedation is extremely safe, and there's really a lot of great places to go and learn how to do it properly and safely. But I try to emphasize how important it is to improve your sedation skills, even going to the extent where you might pick a case, and let's say you don't have the sedations, the parenteral or IV sedation skills. Go ahead and hire an anesthesiologist, a dental anesthesiologist, to come to your office, pay for it yourself, because this is going to be a great learning experience for you, and it'll ensure that your patient has a good experience as well during the procedure.
Or a CRNA.
Right. Well, yeah.
So guys out there, repeat after me. Retrograde amnesia is a good thing.
Absolutely. It sure is. And it's not with just pulling teeth either.
Absolutely. If you could wave a magic wand and you could take away all the unpleasant shit, and you could go from your patient's all messed up to your patient has a beautiful smile, or whatever it is you're doing is done. And the hardest part is, wheeling them out and having them recover. I think your patients are going to be pretty damned happy.
Yeah, it is. There's nothing like when you're done saying to a patient, hey, we're all finished up, and they look at you with bewilderment and saying, we're done? Really? It's
Absolutely.
over? And oral sedation will get you there about 50% of the time. Yep. Moderate IV sedation will get you there 99% of the time. And for those very few patients that need a deeper level of sedation, having a good relationship with the dentist anesthesiologist is critical.
Absolutely. Okay, folks, I think we've given them some really good information here. And hopefully they will sign up. Dave, Karl, please go ahead and feel free to drop the whatever the discount code is below in the comments. Just say, hey, look, I'm Karl. Hey, look, I'm Dave. Here's the code. Here's where you sign up. Put a link to the course. And guys, as I said before, do yourself a favor, make your life easier. There is, frankly, nothing in dentistry that is going to do better for you than learning how to do surgical techniques and how to do them well and efficiently.
Thanks.
And that's it. Guys, thanks again for joining us. And thank you for helping our team here, our dentist in this group, to be more profitable and to be happier.
We're here to help. That's the whole reason we're doing this. Thanks, Doc. Thanks, Karl.
Anytime, my friend. Guys, thanks for wasting another hour listening to the sound of our voices. Hopefully you've learned something that you can take back to your practice and be more profitable, be happier, and spend more time with your family, unless, of course, you just like to play golf. See you later. This is Doc Huffpower. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for listening to the Dear Doc podcast, your source for the business and legal questions associated with your dental practice. Don't forget to subscribe to the Dear Doc podcast on all major platforms.